For our project, we did a remote control car through two Raspberry Pis and two Arduinos, one connected to each other through the serial port, and the two Raspberry Pis communicating via Wi-Fi. And here we'll explain how the Raspberry Pi is connected to the Arduino, and how the Raspberry Pi is connected to each other, and how the circuits were connected on the Arduino and the circuit boards for the remotes and the remote control car.
So this is the Raspberry that's with the car, and we're gonna import the serial so that it can communicate with the Arduino, and that's controlling the car. Okay, and that sets up the serial communication between the Raspberry Pi and the Arduino, controlling the car. This is the Raspberry Pi that's communicating with the Arduino for the controller, and to import the serial so that the Raspberry Pi communicates with the Arduino is the same exact thing as we did with the previous one. So this is the code for the Raspberry that's with the controller, and we're going to describe how that communicates with the other Raspberry Pi that controls the car. So for the controller, the first three lines of code, it goes ahead and it sends that command to SSH and into the host name of the other Raspberry, and then we give it a delay so that the other Raspberry responds with the password, and then we feed it the password, which is Raspberry. And then we enter a while loop, and this while loop, it constantly reads from serial for it's reading for the Arduino with the controller for any input, and based on the input that it receives, it goes ahead and it sends a line of as if it's to the other Raspberry to execute the command based on whatever input it receives. So if it was a W, that goes ahead and it executes for the front code that we have set in the other Raspberry to go ahead and execute. And then we just keep looping through that and reading in the values. So this is showing the home directory for the other Raspberry Pi that works with the Arduino controlling the car. And as you can see, we have different functions, for example, back, go stop, left, right, up, turn stop, and front. Those are all different functions that we showed they get executed by the other Raspberry Pi through SSH. And just to show you one of them, for example, front, all it is it's just sending in through serial to the other Arduino, just a command, just a little character, and the Arduino code is what it constantly reads from serial, and when it gets input from, like for example W, it would go ahead and execute the code that responds to that. For example, this would execute for it to go front and for the wheels to accelerate.
Okay, so this is the code for the Arduino in the car, and as you can see, there is something called the AFDC motor variable, which is actually from a separate library that is from the Adafruit motor, the Motor Shield library, and they actually made it a lot easier for the Motor Shield users to make a variable for that, and you can just input you can input a value to the motors, and it will turn the motor according to the value. And with that, we use the commands that it gives, so or it receives, so that it can put in which value that it has to for the directions and whatnot. And going to the motor shield, this is the motor shield that we used. And the physical actual circuitry of the motor is actually not that bad either, because we didn't have to do too much other than the fact that we put, for one motor has two boxes that we can just put the pins into, and that goes straight into the motors back here through the little chassis hole there. And it actually did need extra power. That was one of the issues with Arduino, is that it couldn't give enough power to turn all 4 of the motors at the same time, or to the full motor speed. And so that we have the 4 AA batteries that is connected to the external power box of the motor shield. And this whole motor shield is connected to the Arduino right under. And we have the Arduino connected with the serial USB into the Raspberry Pi. Okay, and this is the remote control. We have the Arduino that is connected with all the buttons on the breadboard. We only have 4 buttons. This is for the turning left and right, and this is the button for the forward and back. The issue with the buttons were we had different sizes because some of them actually didn't work. And this is the serial cable is also connected all the way to the Raspberry Pi, and this Raspberry Pi communicates with the ones in the car. Go forward, backwards. Okay, and the issue right now is that we can't turn left and right because it uses the half of the power, half the maximum power of the motor to turn either left or right. So it can't exactly just turn on when it's at a standstill. So we somewhat fixed the whole issue with the motor not giving enough power for the turn. And so we put the max power for the motor for the turn, but the issue still seems to be there's too much weight on the car, hence too much maybe friction on the pivoting wheel. So we took out the battery, so it kind of turns, but not as well as coded.